Good morning, Fort Point. We got a new song for you today. How many people know here? Today is the day. Casting my cares aside, I'm leaving my past behind. I'm setting my heart and mind on you, Jesus. Reaching my hands to yours, believing there's so much more, knowing that all you have in store for me is good. He is good. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And I won't worry about tomorrow, trusting in what you say. Today is the day. Today is the day. I'm putting my fears aside, leaving my doubts behind, giving my hopes and dreams to you, Jesus. I'm reaching my hands to yours, believing there's so much more, and knowing that all you have in store for me is good. Oh, it is good. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And I won't worry about tomorrow, trusting what you say. Today is the day. Today is the day. All right, I need a little help here. And I'm going to tell who's not singing out here in a second, because we're going to test you here, all right? So we're going to do a little repeat after me, all right, here? I will stand upon your truth. Stand upon your truth. All my days I live for you. Not bad. I will stand upon your truth. Stand upon your truth. All my days I live for you. All my days I live. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today is the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And I won't worry about tomorrow. I'm giving you my fears and sorrows. Where you lead me, I will follow, trusting in what you say. Today is the day. Today is the day. Today is the day. Today is the day. Oh, today is the day. Give him a shout of praise, Forward Point.
Good morning, Forward Point. How is everybody today? Oh, it sounds like we got a good crowd today.
I know, exciting.
My name is Casey, and I am joined by Sonia. We are here to let you guys know what's going on today. Here at Forward Point, we are a community of faith, hope, and love, hoping that helping people find their because we believe you were born on for a and we want to be a part of that any which way that we can. Boy, you know what, Sonia? We are in another roll of things that are coming due and the things, activities and all sorts of stuff.
So much fun stuff going on. If this is your first time at Forward Point, we want to welcome you into this community of faith. We know it's tough stepping out for the first time. If you're joining us online for the first time or your second or third, welcome. Don't leave here today without getting a little bag of goodies we have and some Mama Skinner's, either zucchini bread or banana bread this morning. It's to die for. You don't want to miss it, I promise. And Get connected with us through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the things so you know what's going on. And the best way to get connected is through our Church Center app. Download that. If you need help, see Casey at the welcome desk. And you can always text 315-883-2213. Welcome, and we'll get you connected as well. So I heard...
Do we want the kids to stay for the?
Yeah, let's have the kids
I didn't
stay.
know
We're
if
going
we
to have a
wanted to
little
let
fun
them
this
go up.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. So this past weekend, football started. Let's get a shout for
Favorite
that.
time of year.
Woo! I know we have some Jets fans in here. Any others? Yeah, number one. All right. Well, we're going to have some football trivia this morning. Casey could probably do a little bit better. I claim the Cowboys in just
I'm sorry, I'm a Giants fan. You got to go.
No. So we're going to have a little bit of trivia this morning. Go Bills. All right. Well, I think the Cowboys and Bills, aren't they in the same team? So I can't root for the Bills. They're in the same division. I don't know how that works, but touchdown, yeah.
I think I'll do better on this, Sonia.
All right. Well, all right. The Eagles.
All right. We got
Eagles
quite
are
a
evil.
variety
Anyways.
of teams here that we can cheer for. Anyway, we are going to go have a little bit of fun right now with some football game. So
yeah,
let's
football
go ahead
trivia. All right.
launch.
So let's start with our first question. All right. Who's been to the most Super Bowl games played?
Come on, this is an easy one.
What was that? Patriots. All right. I hear only because, Brady might have cheated a little bit. I don't know. I heard that's the rumor.
You mean Deflategate?
Deflate, yeah, All right. So you guys got that one right. All right. Next one, if you guys are food fans, no. All right, what's the most expensive stadium hot dog? If you're food fans. All right. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if I would pay that much for a hot dog.
The Bears.
Would you? The Bears, yeah. No, it's not worth it. I don't know. All right. And, all right, who's got the most wins? All right. Any Steelers fans in here? No?
Oh,
Crickets?
yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Haters, all of you? And biggest Super Bowl comeback. Oh, I know this one, actually. I watched the movie on it. And actually, I think I watched the game. I left, before the game was over, and we were like, oh, it's done. And then we found out that, nope, it wasn't. It wasn't. So, yes. It's a good movie, actually. Getting to Brady, I think, was the movie. I don't know. It was good. All right, and I think that was our last question, so good job, guys.
My favorite time of year. I always say that Sundays are for God, family, friends, food, and football.
All right, well, it looks like Casey's going to be hosting some Sunday Fun Day football parties. I don't know. All right, talking about sports, we're continuing with Sunday Fun Days. Before we get to that, continuing with sports, we have Faith and Family Night coming up. So Mission Syracuse, partnered with so many other people, are hosting Faith and Family Night this Friday at the Syracuse Mets, and there's going to be a group of us going. Miss Carol has all of the details on that. She is looking to collect the money today so that she can get us a special price without having to pay the fees. It is $16 a ticket, so see Miss Carol for those details. And please do that before you leave today. She's in yellow. You can't miss her.
And don't think that you actually have to have the cash, because she does do Venmo too. So make sure you match up with her to get that.
And more of the details on that are on the Church Center app. But it's going to be a great time. I went last year. It was just an amazing time of fellowship and to just go into the stadium. And there's praise and worship music at the end and when you're going in. So it's just a whole different kind of feeling. So please don't miss out on that.
Yes, and then we do have the Sunday Fun Day today over at Love Handles. We'd like to see all of you there. I believe it's cupcakes.
Yeah, we're
today.
having homemade cupcakes today. I think we have some from Carol and Lois and Mama Skinner. So we will have a lot of fun there.
Now the kids Miss Kiwi's in the back there, along
Yes.
with Eileen. They're waiting for you. So if you guys want to go right ahead and go back there.
All right, and then we're going to continue with our message. Thank you.
Good morning, Forward Point. How's everybody doing today? Yeah, it's so great to see all of you here this morning. My name is Jimmy. I'm one of the pastors here. And in 2001, I graduated high school. And that summer, whirlwind of events changed the course of my life. And I decided to go to this Bible school down the road called Elam Bible Institute, now Elam Bible Institute in college. While I was there, I had this awesome opportunity. My junior year going into my senior year, I made friends with a youth pastor at a local church that was right there on campus, and we became best buds, and he invited me to be his assistant youth pastor there at Elam Gospel Church. Now, this was a huge thing. This was like the coveted position of all the people in the youth ministry track there, because it was one of a few, maybe the only internship that was paid. Struggling college kids all looking to make ends meet, be able to pay for school. And this was like the creme de la creme of youth ministry internship spots, and I gladly accepted. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to meet and be under one of the men that I've grown to come and love over the years. His name is Pastor Mike Kavanaugh. He's going to be sharing with us this morning. And it's just been an awesome time. When I look back over my life, there's some major moments that I think about that resulted at a result of submitting unto his leadership and influence in my life, and I am so grateful for him, and it's such an honor for me to be able to share him with you, and I would just ask this morning that you would give him a nice, warm Forward Point welcome as we welcome Pastor Mike Kavanaugh.
All right. Well, this is great to be together. I'm so happy we were with some men this weekend, and we originally had planned to do some whitewater rafting, but the weather was such that they closed the whitewater rafting place. The water was too rough. I was thankful for that, since I felt like the whole thing was a risky, terrible idea. But I wanted to go along with Jimmy, on the whole thing. I want to talk to you today about commitment, the power of commitment. I was trying to think to myself, what does it mean to commit to something? What does that mean to commit to something? One thing that came to my mind was when you commit to something, there's no graceful way to turn back. If you have really committed yourself, there's no way to turn back. I was actually brought up in Utica, New York. And I can remember when I was a kid, every few years there would be a little craze that would go through the school where you'd be in the lunchroom, you'd be going to sit into your seat, and as you were sitting in your seat, somebody would reach and pull the chair out from under you. Do things like that still happen anymore? Maybe not. We were, and so they'd pull the chair out from under you. So now when you're going back to sit in a chair, and if you suspect, maybe you realize this has been happening, you can kind of control yourself, kind of not really give yourself to the chair, just kind of hold, everything together there as you're going down. And if somebody pulls the chair out, you can jump up and go, ha ha, you didn't get me, no way. But sometimes you give yourself to the chair. And if you give yourself to the chair, you've said, okay, chair, here, I know you're there, here I come. You give yourself to the chair, and they pull that chair out. There is no graceful way to turn back. Anybody say amen? Yeah, it's just you go slamming down, bam. Another thought I thought about commitment was there is no balance in commitment. It really doesn't work to say, I'm a little committed. Right? You can't be a little committed. You're either in or you're out. You're doing it or you're not doing it. You can't, you can't just be a little committed. You have to commit. You have to give yourself over to something. And, it's like trying to say she's a little pregnant. Well, no, she's not. She's either pregnant or she's not pregnant. There's no balance in commitment. Another thing I thought about commitment was commitment makes me vulnerable. We were talking about football, and it sounds like the room was filled with a lot of football fans. And all of us who've watched football, we know the experience of watching a receiver. Sometimes they'll even catch it with the camera, and you'll see the receiver, the ball is coming to them. All around them is the other team also wanting the ball. And they know the moment they touch that ball, they are going to get hit with everything it's possible to get hit with in that moment to try and get them to drop that ball. And so you can sometimes see it on their face, the moment of decision. Am I going to commit to the ball, give it everything I've got, throw myself into catching this, or am I going to hold back a little bit, protect my ribs, and keep myself from being smashed up, right? That moment of decision there. Because the reality is, if I commit to the ball, I become vulnerable. Commitment is like that. When you commit to something, you become vulnerable. The other thing that strikes me about commitment as I was thinking about it was commitment always cost me something. You cannot be committed without it costing you. There's no such thing as a free commitment. When I commit to something, I remember what a shock it was a few years. I was a pastor for 20 years, and when I stepped down as the pastor of this church over in the Rochester area, when I stepped down as the pastor of the church, I would go to church like a regular person. So I'd go to church, and sometimes we'd go to the early service. We'd actually be out by 10 o'clock. And then I would go, say, hey, let's go out and get a brunch or something like this with my wife. And I discovered something. There are a whole lot of people not in church on Sunday morning. I did not know that. If I was to start a new church today, I would start it in a Lowe's parking lot. Because they are packing. My wife and I were driving down the road, and we go by the Lowe's. I'd go, that place is packed. Look at it, all the cars in that lot. That's where I want to be. We have that sense. And then, when you commit to someplace, for example, if you commit to this church, then you're here. You commit your presence. And so on Sunday, it used to be you got up in the morning, what do I want to do today? Maybe I'll go here, maybe I'll go, I don't know exactly what I want to do. And you were kind of like not sure what was happening. But now you're not like that anymore. You made the decision, I'm going to get up, I'm going to come to church. You know something? When you do that, you lost a freedom, right? You had the freedom to do anything you want. Now all at once you've committed and you're going to be here. It's a powerful thing. You know something? Before you ever got here, there were all kinds of other people here. Do you realize this theater gets converted over every Sunday to be this church? People coming sometimes 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning to get ready. Let's give a hand to all the people who are committed to make this place happen. That's powerful. That's a powerful thing. So what is biblical commitment really all about? If you have your Bibles on your phones or in your hands, you can look up Luke chapter 14. I'm going to work my way through a passage of Scripture there. Luke chapter 14. You can turn right there, verse 25. Now, if you're using your phone, I don't want you doing email and all this other jazz, all right? Just, you got to stay with the Bible, right? Be committed. Stay with the Bible here for this time. Luke chapter 14, starting with verse 25. As a matter of fact, this passage that I'm going to talk to you about, talking about commitment, is one of the most, it really disturbs me. Maybe it'll disturb you too when you have a chance to look at it. Look at Luke chapter 14, verse 25. And so we find Jesus as we begin the passage, and a multitude is following him. You know, one thing about Jesus, he had no concern about keeping the multitude happy. A lot of people follow him one day, that's great. The next day they want to stone him, okay, that's fine. He wasn't like all worked up about keeping the crowd. He was not a politician. He wasn't trying to win the vote. And you see here, he's got a multitude following him, and he says something that to me is like a very crowd-thinning comments. Here's what he says. Luke 14, verse 25, Jesus' words. Now great multitudes were going along with him, and he turned and he said to them, listen to this, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Now, if there was ever a verse that I wanted to edit out of the Bible, this would probably be one of the top ones, right? Well, how about you? It doesn't even sound like Jesus. You know, isn't Jesus supposed to be pro-family? What in the world? What kind of, listen to this. Listen, I'll read this again. You got to be shocked. Maybe you haven't read it in a long time and you haven't thought about just how sometimes Jesus, I find Jesus very irritating. I don't know about you. But when I read the Bible, sometimes the stuff he says I find very like, whoa, this is awkward. Okay, look right here. Look at it again. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Wow. That is disturbing. And I've spent time thinking about it and meditating on this passage. And I believe what Jesus is doing, because it's what he's doing in this whole passage we're going to look at, is all about commitment. And I think what Jesus is saying to us here is, he's saying, every relationship in your life has to be below your relationship with me. You can't have, if you love any of these relationships more than you love me, it will mess things up. As a matter of fact, there are certain relationships that cannot work if you get them out of order. And you love them more than you love God. For example, it's impossible to be a good parent if you love your children more than you love God. Impossible. I know it. I was a parent myself. I still am a parent. I guess I never grow out of it. And I can remember, my kids were younger. I'd hear them talking, and I'd say, my daughter would say to me, we're going to a party on the weekend. And I said, oh, really? Where is this party? And she said, it's at, June's house. And, oh, okay. And who's going to be there? Well, June's parents are away. That's why we're having the party then. So the place is all freed up. It's just going to be a really good time, good party. Just a lot of the kids and stuff like that are going to be there. And, they're all good kids, Dad. They're all, all really good kids. So you're saying you're having a party at June's house, but her parents are not there, and it's going to be all kids at this party? Yeah. It's fantastic. It's like a chance for us to show how mature we are. And I said, well, I don't feel so good about that. Well, what do you mean, Dad? Well, I just don't feel good about you being at a party where there's no adult supervision. You're just kind of at this thing. I don't think that's such a good idea. Dad, you don't understand. Everybody's going to be at the party. Well, everybody may be at the party. I don't know them. I don't know their parents, but you're not going to that party. It's not. Oh, Dad, door slams. Bam! I hate you. Right? Now, if you love your child more than you love God, when that door slams, you're like, oh, Don't hate me, honey. You're over at the door going, honey, we'll work something out. Honey, we'll make it so you can go. Oh, don't hate me, honey. You know, why? Because you love that child more than you love God. If you love God more than you love the child, you're able to go by and go, honey, I know you're mad at me now, but Daddy's always on your side. He always loves you. He'll always be for you. You're able to take your stand in the realization of what the first love in your life is. Are you following me? Does that make sense to you? And then the passage goes on and it says this: whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Now, when we think about crosses today, we think of decorative symbols on the tops of churches, and we think about little crosses that little girls have, you know, that they wear around their neck. And this is what we think about a cross. But at this Bible time, when they think about a cross, they're thinking about a tool for execution. When they think about a cross, it's like an electric chair. He says, whoever does not carry his own tool for his own execution and come after me cannot be my disciple. I remember when I was in Israel one time, and I was on what they call the Via Dolorosa. It's the road where Jesus took this walk with carrying his cross. And actually, the whole road is not much wider than from the front of the stage to the front of the chairs here. And you could just kind of picture, imagine here's Jesus with the cross and a crowd of Roman soldiers around him, and he's walking down the street. If you were there, you'd have pressed up against the wall right there. And as Jesus came by, the last thing you would want to happen would be Jesus coming by and stopping and looking up and going, "Hi, Mike." That would have been like, I don't know him. Who you? You know what? You know, I don't know. You know, this guy's going. Why? Because to identify with him would to become a person of no reputation. Jesus says, if you are committed, if you're going to follow me, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And then he goes on and he says, for which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it begin to ridicule him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. So he's telling us, look, he says, your decision to be committed to Christ has got to be a calculated decision. Like the guy building the building. He says, this cannot be emotional. This can't be an emotional decision. He says, because emotions go up and down. You feel good about it, you don't feel good about it, whatever. He says, you have to count the cost. If you are really going to follow Christ, if you're really going to put every relationship under him, if you're really going to pick up the cross and lay down your reputation, if you're going to do this, you have to count the cost of what you are doing. And then he wants you to, he emphasizes it by repeating the idea twice. Look what here in verse 31 he says, or what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and take counsel whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter the one coming against him with 20,000? Or else while the other is still far away, he sends the delegation and asks terms of peace. He says, you got to look at this thing like, if you're going to commit yourself to Christ, you got to remember you're entering the David and Goliath world. The problems always look bigger. The enemies always seem stronger. He says you're entering a whole nother realm right now, and you got to count the cost. He says you got to think about it like a person who has 10,000 soldiers, a general with 10,000, having to go against an army of 20,000. You got to think and say, okay, we could win this. We throw our whole selves into it. We give it everything we've got. We pour ourselves out. We could win this thing, but we could lose this thing too. And is the cause the worth the sacrifice of our lives? Is the cause worth it for us to do this? Jesus says you need to calculate the cost, because that's what it's like. It's like you're going into a battle with 10,000 against 20,000, and you got to decide, is he worth it? Is it worth it to please him? To put myself in that kind of situation, to make myself that vulnerable? You got to count the cost, he says. This is all Jesus' words. Verse 33 says this: so therefore, no one of you can be my disciple who does not give up all his own possessions. So he says, you got to give up your relationships. You got to put those relationships. You got to give up your reputation. He says, you need to yield all your possessions. Why does Jesus care about possessions? He doesn't need any possessions. Why do we need to yield our possessions? And the reason is because all possessions, everything that you own, has a gravity to it. Everything, your house, your car, it all has a pull on it that's pulling your soul. And the only way you can stay committed when you have a lot of possessions is to yield everything to Christ. All your possessions have to be given to him. You know, you've heard the expression, where your treasure is, there will what? Your heart be also. So our possessions have a gravity. I remember years ago when my kids were little, I decided to take a weekend and build them a little swing set thing. So I got the swing set stuff, ordered all the thing, and all weekend long, I'm bolting it together and putting it all together, and finally at the end of the weekend, the swing set is done, and the kids have come out and they're playing on the swing set. Oh, it's awesome, and I have the instructions in my hand. My wife and I are standing there looking at it. I'm feeling kind of proud, I pulled it off, and I flipped to the last page of the instructions. And the last page says this: in 1 week, you should go around and retighten all of the different aspects, because when they first start, you're just going to loosen everything up. You should retighten all of the bolts in the swing set. Okay. And I look a little further, and then it says, and then in a month, you should lubricate all the, these things, And then in 2 months, you'll need to retighten the bolts again, because they've been swinging on the set. It's going to be loose again and stuff like that. And I remember I'm looking at this thing, and I looked at my wife, and I said, I thought I bought a swing set. I said, I bought a life commitment. I said, it's a new career. I said, this is like crazy. And that's the way possessions are. You think you possess the possession, but often the possession possesses you. You think you're telling the possession what to do, but often if it's not in the right place in relationship to Christ in your life, the possession is telling you what to do. And then we come to the end of the passage, and Jesus says something that caused many commentators to struggle for a long time, because it did not appear to be true. And so they battled with this. Now, let's look at it together. Verse 34, he says this: therefore, salt is good. What have we been talking about? What's the whole passage about? Commitment, right? Commitment. That's what the whole passage is about. So now you got to read this in the light of that. Therefore, salt is good. Salt is a picture of commitment. But if even salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned? It's useless either for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. So this really caused a lot of problems for people who studied the Bible when they read it, when they began reading it, because Jesus says something that's not true. He says the salt has become tasteless. Now, if you have a container of salt and you put it up on the shelf and you leave it there for a decade, and then you come back at the end of the decade and you sprinkle that salt out, what does it taste like? Salt. It never changes. It doesn't become less salty. You've never had a day where you made something and then people tasted it and said, whoa, that salt was stale. You must have let that go for a long time. Whoa, You never hear that. Why? Because the salt always stays the same. And so this was very peculiar. Therefore, salt is good, but if even salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned? So how does the salt become tasteless? The way the salt becomes tasteless is this. Salt was a very precious commodity. It was used for healing purposes. Salt was used to season food like we would think of. Salt was used to preserve food. It was a very, very valuable commodity in ancient times. So when the guy who was selling the salt, when he would go to his distributor and he would get the salt, he would get it and he would say, well, this salt is really, really expensive. I could really improve my profit if I just took 10% of the salt out and I put in something that looked like salt but wasn't salt. If I did that, I would have an immediate boost of 10%. Isn't that a great thing? So he would cut the salt. He would put stuff into the salt that wasn't salt. So 10%, and it didn't make any difference. I mean, if you're shaking out the salt shaker and 9 granules are salt and 1 granule is some other inert substance, it didn't make any difference. You wouldn't taste that difference in that way. And so the distributor would cut the salt in that way. And then you would go and you would buy the salt, very expensive, and you would bring it home. And you would think to yourself about your kids and everything. I don't want them just shaking salt on everything. This is going to cost a lot of money if they do that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the salt and I'm going to just cut it just a little bit. And so I cut the salt again. And then every time the salt changes hands, people get the bright idea of cutting the salt. Until one day, the salt isn't salt anymore. It doesn't taste salty anymore because it's been cut so many times. And this is what Jesus was talking about. He was talking about this, dealing with the attitude of total commitment. And he was saying, over time, he says, something happens. We compromise. We cut the salt. You come to that place in your life where you give your life to Christ and you make your commitment and you give it everything that you've got. But over time, because situations change and circumstances change and seasons change, we cut the salt again and again and again. Until one day we find ourselves sitting in church and without even realizing it, the salt has become tasteless. It doesn't really do for us what it used to do anymore because we are not committed the way we were before. We've made these many little compromises. Now, maybe you're pushing back a little bit in your thinking as I'm saying this, but let me explain it to you a couple other ways and see if it makes more sense to you. Think about children. How many of you believe that a 3-year-old child can give their life to Jesus? You think so? Don't be afraid. What do you think? I'm going to send you to jail? Come on. How many of you think a 3-year-old? Okay, let me ask this question. How many of you think a 5-year-old child could give their life to Jesus? Okay, how many of you think a 7-year-old child could give their life to Jesus? Okay, so we know children can give their lives to Jesus, right? They can make a holy, sacred, consecrated commitment to Christ at a young age. But if a 7-year-old or even a 10-year-old gives their life to Jesus, and they make that commitment, and then they grow until they're 16. How many of you think that the commitment that they made when they were 10 will hold them when they're 16? No, you realize something has to happen, right? When they're 16, they will recommit their life to Christ, right? They'll make a fresh commitment. Why? Because the world they live in as a 16-year-old is a totally different world than they were in when, as a child, they gave their life to Jesus. This world that they live in as a 60-year-old is different. And so they make a new commitment to Christ. They freshen their walk with the Lord. But then it doesn't stop. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. How many of you know that even though I may have made a totally consecrated, totally committed decision for Jesus at 16, that when I'm 21, the world has changed a lot? I have new temptations. I have new opportunities. I have all kinds of new things facing me. And so what has to happen? What has to happen is at 21, there's a renewal of the commitment. Now, this is not an issue of salvation. It's not like the person gets saved and then unsaved and then saved and unsaved. That's not. What we're talking about is not salvation. Salvation is something God does. It's beautiful, powerful, eternal. But commitment is a different deal. Commitment is something that I do. And I have to renew my commitment because life changes. I think of when I first started in ministry, I was traveling a lot, speaking places and things like that. And so we would get money, a little money per mile, as we had to travel. And so I said to my wife, I said, I think we could buy a new car, and with the traveling I'm doing, it would pay for a new car. Now this was a big deal because the house I grew up in, my mom and stuff like that, there was no car. She never learned to drive. I don't think my mother. I was a single parent home. My mom never learned to drive. And then a new car. It's one thing, people in my family may have had a car there in Utica, but a new car? That never. And so I went out and I bought this brand new car. I remember our little stone driveway and the apartment we were living in. And I'd go out there and polish the car. You know what I mean? This is a brand new car. This is a brand new car. I polished the cars, the car's looking good, looking real nice, and I got a new car. Nobody in my family has had a new car. Maybe they've never had a new car. I have a new car, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. So one day I'm out there, and my little son Toby, he was about maybe 4 years old at the time. My little son Toby is out there with me. He's playing in the stones of the parking lot where the car is parked. And as he's playing with the stones in the parking lot, he picks up a few stones. I don't know what got into his mind, but he wanted to tell me something. And I'm over polishing the car. He runs over to tell me, and as he gets near the car, he trips, falls with his little hands filled with stones, falls into the side of the car, and then slides down the car. I'm like, ah! And little Toby's like, oh, and his little 4-year-old, oh, I said, Toby, go in the house right now. Go in the house. I told him go in the house because I didn't know what I was going to do. You know what I mean? I said, go in the house right now. Go in the house right now. He said, oh, go in the house right now. He runs crying into the house, and I'm standing there looking at this car with the scratches down the side of the car. I'm wiping the scratches, to see if they'll clean them up a little. No, it is scratched right down. And I'm looking at this car, and as I'm standing near the car, the Lord speaks to me. And he says to me, wow, that was a surprise. And I'm going, what was a surprise? And he said, I always thought you loved your kids more than you loved the car. And I said, I do love my kids more than I love the car. He says, really? Well, it didn't look like that to me. And I said, okay, just stop right now. And I said, all right, Lord, I surrender this car to you. I give it to you. It was much easier to do now that it had scratches down the side of it. Before when it didn't have the scratches, I kind of wanted to keep the car. You know what I mean? It was kind of like but I said, Lord, I surrender this to you. What had happened? See, what had happened was, as I came to a new season of life, I was faced with new temptations, right? This new car, new opportunities, and it demanded a new what? A new commitment, a new surrender. The old surrender is not enough. And this goes on and on. Every different season of your life, when you have romance and you come to that place where you're battling with, do you love this person more than you love God? Or, what's happening in marriage? That sets a whole new stage for a whole new set of issues. And then your career, you have certain places you want to reach in your career and certain levels of prosperity maybe you're hoping for. And every new season, having children, having grandchildren. I was very ticked off with God about the whole grandchildren thing. My kids, all of them for a season, but my oldest son had the first grandchildren. He was a missionary in China. You can't get any farther away than China, folks. He was a missionary in China. And, I talked to the Lord. I told him, I said, Lord, I gave you my children when they were little. I said, but you just took my grandchildren. No questions, no conversation, nothing. You just took my grandchildren. And I didn't like it. Retirement, issues dealing with that. Every new age, every new season has new opportunities and new temptations. When my kids were growing up, part of working with them and talking to them about life was I would tell them different missionary stories and Bible stories, of course, things like that. But I would tell them different missionary stories. One story I used to tell them was the story of the Moravians. In 1727, a powerful revival broke out and a prayer meeting began that literally ran in an unbroken chain 24 hours a day for 100 years. Wow. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? 24 hours a day for 100 years. The 100-year prayer meeting, church history. You can read about it, look on the internet. Out of this incredible revival, a passion was birthed to bring the gospel to the whole world. And this group, called the Moravians, had learned the secret of loving the souls of men was found in loving the Savior of men. On October 8th, 1732, a Dutch ship left the Copenhagen harbor, bound for the Danish West Indies. Two men were on board, one a potter and the other a carpenter. They were skilled speakers who had come to a decision, and the decision that they made was this. They said, we don't have the resources to get to the Danish West Indies to minister to the slaves that have been taken there. We don't have the ability to do this. So what we're going to do, these two men made this decision, we're going to sell ourselves into slavery. And then as a result of that, be carried to the West Indies on one of these slavery boats and have a chance to preach the gospel to the slaves of the West Indies. When the day came for them to leave, their ship was in the harbor, and all their friends came to say goodbye to them. And as they're looking down, their friends are waving goodbye. And as they look, they can see the question that is in the friend's mind. And the question is, how could you do this? How could you give up everything? Give up getting married, give up having a family, give up children, give up life. How could you do this? What could possibly motivate you to do this thing? They could read this in the crowd that was waving goodbye to them. And as the ship began to slip away from the foggy harbor, the two of them cried out from the side of the boat. And this is the words they spoke, words that have echoed through church history. To win for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. This is why we're doing this. To win for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. Well, when you plant seeds in children, those seeds grow up. And it eventually became time where my son Toby began a ministry called Campus Target and ended up taking hundreds of young people to the nations, particularly to China. And so he went there, and my grandchildren were born, most of them in another country. And when he went there, he went as a single guy, ended up getting married to a girl who left from here to follow him in that ministry. And it was a powerful thing. Well, they had been there for about 10 years. They'd come home a couple times for short visits. But they had been there for about 10 years. And they were going to come home one summer with all the kids for 5 weeks. And we were all so excited. They came home, and we just had the greatest summer together. The kids are, there's 3 of them at that point. We just had the greatest summer together. We went out to little parks, and the kids would play, climbing in the little jungle gyms and things like that. And it was just a wonderful time of sharing together and just a great time. And so it came down the 5 weeks after all these parties and all these different events we spent together and things like that. It came at the end of the 5 weeks that it was time for them to go back. They were going to go back on a Tuesday, leave from the airport. And so on Sunday, we said, hey, we're going to do a cookout at the house. Come on over, and it'll be a fun time for us all together. And so they came. Their brother and his wife came, and they had a couple of twins, I think, at that point, and his sister came, and so we were all together as a family the last time before they head back to China. And we're spending time. Now, we're not talking about them leaving. We're not talking about any of that kind of stuff. We're just hanging out there. And it comes down, starts getting dusk, and my son, his brother, Todd, steps up and he says, hey, Toby, he says, I have to leave on a business trip. He said, I won't be here when you leave on Tuesday. So this is goodbye for us. We're saying goodbye to you right now. Now, we had not been thinking about goodbye. We had just been thinking about have a nice time together and, this kind of thing. We'd not been thinking goodbye. So Todd walks over to Toby and starts hugging him. And when they start hugging, they start crying. And we were not ready for this. And so we all start crying, right? Pretty soon we're all in the middle of the living room. Oh, we love you. And we're all crying and, goodbye. So everybody leaves. I look at my wife and I say to her, there is no way I can go to the airport on Tuesday. I said, there is no way I can go. I said, I cannot. I just can't do it. And, in my mind, I'm seeing my little granddaughter, Maya, she was the oldest of the crew and was smart enough to realize they were leaving, but they'd just been spoiled for 5 weeks. They were leaving Grandma and Grandpa and everything. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, I can just see her as her dad is taking her through security. And she's looking back at me going, Grandpa, don't let him take me, save me, And I'm thinking, what am I going to do then? What can happen? I said, there is no way I can go to this airport and say goodbye to them. And so the Tuesday comes. My wife, who is always braver than me and stronger than me, she goes to the airport. She's going to say goodbye to them. I'm sitting at home in a chair, just thinking about them, getting ready to go on the plane. And as I'm sitting on the chair, I get a text from my son. And it says this, about to leave for Shanghai. And then he writes, why do we do this again? I'm thinking, I'm reading the text and I'm going, that's what I'm wondering too. Why do we do this again, And then he writes in the text, Oh, yeah, he says, to win for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. That stinker. He takes the story I used to tell him as a kid, and he says it to me now. Dad, why am I doing these things? Why am I leaving family? Why am I leaving home? Why are you having to give up being with your grandkids? To win for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. Now listen, I don't know what God is talking to you about. All I know is that with different seasons, it requires a fresh commitment. That yesterday's commitment, though it was sincere and honest and genuine and meaningful, will not hold you when you're facing the new challenges of life. You have got to make a fresh commitment to the Lord. I want everybody just to bow your heads and your hearts right now. Would you do that? Just bow your heads and your hearts. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what God is talking to you about. I don't know what challenges you're facing at home or in the office or at school or in all the different environments that you find yourself in. I don't know what season of life has changed for you. Maybe you're looking at retirement, or you've just gotten retired and you're feeling lost, or I don't know what you're battling with. But I think today the Lord is speaking to you that if you're going to endure this next season, if you're going to endure this next time, it requires a renewal of the salt. It requires a fresh commitment. Now, if you're here right now, and remember, we're not talking down about anything that's happened in the past or any commitment you've made in the past. It was real and genuine at the time. But new seasons require a new commitment. If you're here right now and something has spoken to you out of what I've been sharing, and you just want to renew your commitment to the Lord, I want you to lift both of your hands in the air right there in your seat. Would you do that? Just lift both of your hands in the air. You're saying, yeah, I see it. It's a new day. It's a new hour. The salt has become tasteless. I need something fresh to happen for me. I need a fresh commitment. Lord, all around the room, people have their hands lifted right now. And I just pray, Lord, that you will just come and receive the offering of their lives afresh. They did it before when they were young. They did it before when they were just beginning. They did it before at other seasons, other times. But Lord, that's not enough. They need to maintain the freshness. The salt has lost its savor, and they don't want it to be wasted. Lord, we just ask right now in the powerful name of Jesus that as their hands are lifted, that you will come upon them right now. That they will sense that you have received afresh the offering of their lives. That this commitment that they've made, a commitment that covers their relationships, a commitment that covers their reputation, a commitment that covers all their possessions. They put it in your hands. They offer themselves to you afresh. They count the cost. And they say, yes, you are worth it, Lord. You're worthy of my 20s. You're worthy of my 30s. You're worthy of my 40s. You're worthy of my 50s. You're worthy of my 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You're worthy. You're worthy of all that I have to give to you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Let's all applaud the Lord. Can we do that right now? You are worthy, 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 Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. And you are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Sing it again, church. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Sing with me. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing it again. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Make this your prayer, church. And you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing it again. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel that you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Waymaker, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause that is who you are. That is who you are. Yes, that is who you are. 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 Thank you, God. Just thinking about Pastor Mike and his message. I know at Forward Point we've never sugar-coated the commitment to follow Jesus. But he's so right when he talks about the commitment that can change year by year, season by season. As Jesus said, day by day. If anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself. Or he can't be my disciple. Church, it's not because Jesus was being judgmental towards children. But he always wants to get to the root of our heart. What do we value? See, you'll never be able to find your purpose in Jesus as long as you're trying to find your purpose in everything else. There was nothing wrong with a new car. There was nothing wrong in getting a pay raise. There's nothing wrong in getting married or having great relationships or having wonderful children. But if the enemy knows he can get at you by either causing not just a little scratch, some severe scratches on your car, that's so painful. I cringed when I heard that. Or having your children go overseas, knowing they may never come back. Or losing a loved one. It will shake your absolute core. That's why Jesus says, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. In every storm, I will be there. I was praying for a young lady. I was trying not to text her anything during Pastor Mike, and he's like, don't email, don't text. Stay on the verses. And then this girl texts me. She was raised under a lot of legalism. And she's just totally removed from the heart of God. And sadly, then her father dies. She just lost, her marriage, and then her kids hate her. And she met this man that just showed her the love of God, an unconditional love of Jesus. And she said, Stephen, I was just coming back. starting to realize the heart of Jesus, trying to take down these layers. And he said one day, he said he wasn't feeling that good. It's just over a week ago. And then I get a text from my friend the next morning. He had a heart attack and he died. And she was just saying, why, oh why? I just told her I'm praying for her. I'm praying that she just receives the unconditional love of Jesus amidst the pain, amidst the suffering. It's hard to tell a person at that moment. Even when you don't see him working, he's working. Even when you don't feel him working, he's working. But he is church. And so I pray today you would become a vessel for him. If you know his goodness, walk in it. Show it to others. And if today you're here and you're not feeling it, you don't see it, I'm going to just ask God to give you an increase of your faith. Because he will make a way. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel that you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel that you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see that you're working, even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never Waymaker. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 We're going to do a new one for everyone here. Jesus, my living water, name above all names. Lamb of God, new life giver. conquer the grave. Let's sing that again. Jesus, Jesus, my living water, name above all names. Lamb of God, Lamb of God, new life giver, you conquer the grave. I don't have to wonder where my hope is coming from. I lift my hands to who you are and everything you've done. Whoa, I know what I'm reaching for. I know what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you. Whoa, I know what I'm living for. I know what I'm living for. I'm living for you. I'm living for you. Yeah. Healer, healer of broken people, you're never far away. I draw close, and I draw close, and you draw closer. Meet me in this place. Let's sing that again. Healer and healer of broken people, you're never far away. I draw close and I draw close, but you draw closer. Meet me in this place, and I don't have to wonder where my hope is coming from. I lift my hands for who you are and everything you've done. Oh, whoa, I know what I'm reaching for. I know what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you, yeah. Oh, I know what I'm living for. I know what I'm living for. I'm living for you. I'm living for you. Sing it again. No, I know what I'm reaching for. I know what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you, yeah. Oh, I know what I'm living for. I know what I'm living for. I'm living for you. I'm living for you, yeah. There is freedom wherever you are, and I can see it. You're the light in the dark. You are. Whoa, there is power when I see your name, and I can feel it, 'cause you're breaking the chains. You are. Whoa, sing it again. There is freedom wherever you are, and I can see it. We're the light in the dark. You are. Whoa, there is power when I say your name, and I can feel it, 'cause you're breaking the chains. You are. Whoa. Oh, I know what I'm reaching for. I know what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you. Yeah. Oh, I know what I'm living for. I know what I'm living for. I'm living for you. I'm living for you. Yeah. Oh, I for. I know what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you. Yeah. Oh, I know what I'm living for. I know what I'm living for. I'm living for you. I'm living for you. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus.
Wow, that was a great song, Stephen. Wonderful. All right, so Sonia, what did you get out of today's?
So I walked in church today and I was speaking with Debbie and she said to me, oh, I was with a couple of my friends last night and your name came up in conversation. And it was somebody I'd never met and I was like, oh, all right, I hope it was good. Or, you know, my reputation preceded me. And then I got to thinking as I was standing and sitting listening to the message, I hope when my reputation precedes me or when people are talking about me or anything, I hope it's she lived for Jesus. I hope it's the way she did things, it was with joy and it was with the light of Jesus. And I get stories one day where I went on a boat as a slave or, you know, something to that effect. And I was just thinking about that how cool is it that we can be those platforms and be that conversation of she was the salt in the world and she was the light. So that's what I took out of this morning.
So for me, I got thinking about how, you know, the seasons of life, as was so well described today, and how, you know, God is so good at giving us examples, and sometimes we just don't see them. Winter's coming, I got to get my car winterized. Mm-hmm. Summer's coming, I got to make sure the air conditioner works, you know. How about I'm divorced, I have to renew my faith in God and going through divorce. I've lost someone, I have to renew. Those seasons of life happen just as the seasons happen here in New York, you know. And that just reminded me so well of that we need to continue to renew our faith and continue that commitment because it's easy to get caught up in your own world and your own life. And I mean, think about a divorce. What am I getting? What am I getting? You know, instead of, Lord, it's all yours anyway. You know. So that's what I was thinking.
Talking about seasons, we know in New York we can get 4 seasons in one day. So definitely in life, we can get 5 seasons in one day. So it is.
And even with the tornado warning we had the other day.
You know, is it going to happen? Is it here? So guys, we just want to thank you again for joining us. Please don't forget about Sunday Fun Day. Let's have some fun together over at Love Handles. Don't forget to get involved. And if this is your home, this is where you call home, this is your family, please allow us to continue to do what we're in the community doing. There are multiple ways to give through our Joy Box in the back, through the Church Center app, online. And again, we just thank you for going over and above so we can do those things.
Yes, I did want to just say really quick, this month is Overdose Awareness Month, and there's a lot of people out there that really need prayer.
Okay.
So if we could all pray for them during the week, that would be great. Please don't forget your kids upstairs. We do need help cleaning up, so if anybody wants to meet us back there in the back closet, we can get this place back in shape, and yeah, we'll all meet you.
And if there is something on your heart, you want to be prayed over, be a vessel for someone else, we do have our prayer partners in the back corner. Don't leave here without getting that off of your chest. And as always, thank you for joining us, and let's finish with one last song.
You're all on your feet. When my hope and strength is gone, you're the one who calls me home. You are the life, you are the fight, it's in my soul. Oh, your resurrection power burns like fire in my heart. When waters rise, I live lift my eyes unto your throne. We are more. We are more than conquerors through Christ. You have overcome this world, this life. We will not bow to sin or to shame. We are defiant in your name. You are the fire that cannot be tamed. You are the power in our veins. Our Lord, our God, our conquerors. I will sing into the night. Christ is risen and on high. Greater is he living in me than in the world. No surrender, no retreat. We are free, we're redeemed. We will declare over despair, you are the hope. Come on, let me hear ya. We are more than conquerors through Christ. You have overcome this world, this life. We will not bow to sin or to shame. We are defiant in your name. You are the fire that cannot be tamed. You are the power in our veins. Our Lord, our God, our conquerors. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Every chain is breakable. With you, we are victorious. You are stronger than our hearts. You are greater than the dark. With you, we are victorious. Sing it again. You are impossible. Every chain is breakable. With you, we are victorious. And you are stronger than our hearts. You are greater than the dark. With you, we are, let's do it again, victory. Nothing, and nothing is impossible. And every chain is breakable. With you, we are victorious. Oh, you are stronger than our hearts. You are greater than the dark. With you, we are victorious. We are more than conquerors through Christ. You have overcome this world, this life. We will not bow to sin or to shame. We are defiant in your name. You are the fire that cannot be tamed. You are the power in our veins. Our Lord, our God, our conquerors. Give a shout of praise. We love you, Forward Point. We are more than conquerors.